All right, just a quick video update of where we're at on the Rebel Press modifications to make them appropriate for like a airgun swaging press. Not a whole ton of sophisticated modifications are really required. We'll kind of get into each piece. The main modifications though are going to be to the ram of the press, the knuckle, and then just a slight modification. There's a Zerk fitting in the press that we swap out with a pin, but we'll get into that. So let's take a look first at the ram. So the ram's probably the most complicated modifications required for this. First, the most obvious is you have to mill in a slot in the center of the ram. That's for the pin that is used as a hard stop for the ejection pin that will pass through. Besides that slot, there's some threads that might be hard to see. There's some threads cut into the end of the ram. Those are for the dies. The idea being we'll use threads to be compatible with as many dies as possible. So right now we're using the same threads as Corbin. GMI, I believe, is coming out with some dies that use the same threads. The idea being is compatibility with as much as possible, so that once we've modified the ram, you can either use your own custom dies like I'm doing, or use Corbin or GMI or whoever has dies that use that same thread. And then in addition to those threads, there's a second bore there, and that's going to be even harder to see. But if you look at the ejection pin, it bottoms out in that second bore, so maybe a little hard to see, but you can kind of see it in there. And that is pretty much all the modifications needed for the ram. All right, next modification is to the knuckle of the press. So the original two pivot points were these two here. We've just modified this to add a closer pivot point. The center distance between those two pivots is now I think 1.1 inches or something similar to that. The idea is, rather than the further center to center distance gives you greater travel in the ram, but the closer to center distance gives us a significant mechanical advantage, meaning we can apply a lot more pressure without putting any more strain on the frame or the body of the press. And we just, this distance provides plenty of motion in the ram. I'll show you an example of swaging on the press here at the end of the video, just so you can get an idea. And then, so essentially it's just a matter of creating a fixture so that you can hold this in a vise and drill or machine that hole. And then in addition to drilling the hole, you'll notice the original hole had kind of these offset boss here, and so we've just machined a couple of Delrin washers to take up that same space. The final modification is super simple. There's a little Zerk fitting on the original press that allowed you to oil the ram. We're removing that Zerk fitting and replacing it with just a little pin that threads into that same hole. And like I said before, this is the pin that travels through the ram and acts as a stop for that ejection pin. Once the design and CAD files are finalized, I'll put them on the forum or host them on my website so that they're accessible permanently. Idea that this will be open source, accessible for everybody, hopefully lowering the cost of entry into swaging slugs, and enticing more people into doing it. I think the more of us that are doing it, the more interesting innovations will come across. So hopefully people are interested. Anyway, that's the current update. Thanks, guys.